argue. Me and my daughter honestly argue. She can't even talk. She know a couple words, right? She put a couple sentences together. But it's like every time I tell her something, she always got something to say back. It don't matter what I say, she always got to give me something back. And it make me mad. We got into an argument over juice the other day. She came into the room. She was like, Daddy, juice. I said, no, you had enough juice. Go get some water. And she looked at me. She was like, juice. And I looked at her. Who the fuck you think you talking to? Sit your little ass down and get the goddamn... I was so mad. I was mad because I knew she knew what she was trying to say. She just didn't know how to say it. You know? Like in her mind, she was like, you black midget bitch. Get the juice, punk ass daddy. I knew that's what she was saying. I could tell by her hand movement. She's doing like, all this guy, She's like, you black midget bitch. I was so mad.
In last week's video, I talked about benign violation in producing humor. So in this week's video, I'll be talking about benign violation in producing humor. Don't worry, it's gonna be almost as good, and you'll be so funny that your friends might start tipping you after you crack a joke. A benign violation is simply the idea that anything that produces comedy does so because it is both a violation and benign at the same time. Instead of summarizing everything I talked about last week, I figured I would take this as an opportunity to plug my old video. So I'm gonna link it somewhere around the screen, and it's called The Ultimate Comedy Hack. So let's get straight into it. Here are several techniques that we can use to adjust an idea to make it either more benign or more of a violation in order to produce comedy. And the first is called blind spot. Blind spot is the use of a comedic flaw about ourselves plus an ignorance of that flaw. You might be wondering, what is a comedic flaw? A comedic flaw is something that we can easily overdo. It has to be authentic because the more authentic it is, the easier it is for us to sell it. And you have to be ignorant of that flaw. The more you're able to sell your ignorance on that trait, the better off your joke is going to be. Selling this flaw is as simple as committing to what you are delivering. And there is a level of creative license. It's like a fictional world that you're creating and your audience comes along with it. When I say audience, I don't mean filling up a stadium with people, just in personal interactions, in day-to-day conversations. So long as we're committed to that blind spot, our audience will usually suspend disbelief, or at least laugh while they disbelieve. Let's watch this short clip of Kevin Hart using the blind spot.
I get irritated very fast. Small things make me mad. This is not a joke. This is an example because I want you to understand what I'm saying. I don't like it when people eat and sweat at the same time. I don't fucking like it. I don't fucking like it. Like if somebody's eating, while they eat, they're like, whoo! Oh, I'll punch you in the fucking face. If I'm there, I swear to God, I'll punch you in the fucking face. Slow down! Anybody gonna take that food from you? Slow down!
While Kevin Hart being so explicit about his blind spot of being irritated by little things made it a little less blind, it still worked because he was fully committed to that flaw. In short, we can evoke our blind spots by bragging, defending, or minimizing very unusual behavior. The next technique we can use to moderate benign violation is changing the location or the person. This works by first identifying whether the idea that we're trying to make funny is one that is naturally benign or is naturally violatory. If it's naturally benign and there's a location or a person involved, we just need to switch the location or the person into something that's more violatory in order to make that a little more funnier. Alternatively, if the idea is naturally violatory, we can switch the location or the person to try to make it a little more benign. Let's watch this short clip of Kevin Hart using a change of location to create humor.
I've never seen more Mexican officers in my goddamn life. They standing there, they got the dogs. I've never seen dogs look through the window of the plane. The dogs. When I saw the dogs, I said, oh boy. Y'all going to jail. Y'all going to fucking jail. They smell it. The dogs smell it already.
You might be wondering what part of that joke had a change of location. Typically, canine dogs are looking through car windows. By simply changing it from a car window to an airplane window, that makes it enough of a violation to get the laughter that he got from the crowd. Another very simple way to moderate benign violation is by manipulating the distance between the subject of the joke and the audience. So by simply shifting the focus between myself or the person I'm talking to or a third party, I'm able to play around with how benign or violatory an idea is. This idea was perfectly summarized by a quote from Mel Brooks, which goes, "Tragedy is when I cut my finger. Comedy is when you fall into an open sewer and die." In other words, if something happens close to me or to myself, I feel it a lot more than something that happens to you or something that happens to someone else. The theme is that the less emotionally connected we are to something, the easier it is for us to laugh at that when it is the subject of satire. The final technique is exaggeration or understatement. It's perhaps the most easiest and most common to use. Let's watch this short clip from Lion King.
I'm so hungry I could eat a whole zebra.
That was a very memorable quote from the original Lion King. Although that wasn't the funniest idea, it was funnier than saying, for example, "I'm so hungry I could eat a whole bird," because that would be too benign. But let's try to add more of a violation to that to see if that might sound a little more funnier. So instead of saying, "I'm so hungry I could eat a whole zebra," had he said, "I'm so hungry I could eat a whole rock," or "I'm so hungry I could eat sand," I think that would have added more of a violation that could have made that joke a little bit more funnier. It's also worth remembering that for the target audience of that particular line, which is mostly kids, that was a violation enough to be funny. Now let's see how adding even more of a violation might actually ruin that joke. Had he said, for example, "I'm so hungry I could eat another lion," that might have been a little too much of a violation because it would imply some sort of cannibalism, which, without adding anything else that's benign to that, would come off as a little over the top. With these few techniques out of the way, the most important thing when trying to make jokes spontaneously in everyday conversations is simply to have the right mindset, to put ourselves in that state of comedy, to try to find things that are funny and to try to change things in ways that can make them funny. Without having that intention to do that, there are so many easy jokes that would escape our notice. In fact, this is my biggest problem with joke making. It's not an inability to come up with jokes, but it's more so not having enough presence of mind in the moment to try to find those jokes. I tend to be one who's more attracted to the serious things in life, which is something that attracted me to this topic of comedy. It is something that I want to have a better presence of mind about, and through consistently applying such techniques, we're able to increase the consistency at which we are noticing jokes and also shorten the amount of time that it takes for us to come up with a joke whenever we try to find one. Another key to remember is that most ideas tend to be naturally benign because, well, we're civilized and everything. So the goal is more often to add more of a violation in order to make it funny. As far as violations go, you might be wondering, well, what if I offend someone? But it's worth remembering that the only subjects that are off limits are those that are not funny, as being offended and laughing don't tend to go well together. I appreciate your time watching this video, and I hope you were able to get something out of it.